I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about the money advice you grew up hearing, not from books, not from financial experts, from the people closest to you, your parents, your grandparents, the elders in your family who genuinely loved you and wanted the best for you. Maybe you heard things like, study hard, get a good job, and life will be fine. Or, save your money, don't take risks. Or, a government job is the safest path. Or, owning a house is the best investment you will ever make. Or, debt is always dangerous, avoid it completely. This advice came from love. It came from lived experience. It came from people who navigated genuinely difficult times and found what worked for them in their world. But here's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask. What if the world they were navigating no longer exists? What if the financial rules that kept them safe are quietly failing you, not because they were wrong for their time, but because the time itself has completely changed? Today, I want to have an honest, respectful conversation about why some of the money beliefs passed down through generations, beliefs held with complete sincerity and deep love, may actually be the invisible walls keeping you from building real wealth. Let me start with a story. There was a young man, let us call him Hamza, bright, hard-working, deeply respectful of his family. He grew up watching his father work a steady government job for 30 years, same desk, same routine, same monthly salary arriving on the same date without fail. His father retired with a pension. The family was never rich, but they were always stable, always secure. So when Hamza finished his education, the message from home was clear and loving. Find something stable, something safe. Don't gamble with your future. Get a job with security. Save what you can and build slowly. Hamza did exactly that. He found a decent job. He saved diligently in a regular savings account the way his father had taught him. He avoided anything that sounded like risk. He did not invest in anything he could physically touch. He felt responsible. He felt like he was doing everything right. 10 years later, Hamza sat down to look at his finances honestly, and what he found quietly devastated him. His savings account had grown, but when he compared that growth to the rising cost of everything around him, rent, groceries, school fees, medical costs, he realized something that nobody had ever told him. His money was growing slower than the world around him was getting more expensive. He had been saving faithfully for 10 years, and in real terms, in actual purchasing power, he was poorer than when he started. He had followed the advice perfectly, and the advice had quietly failed him. Not because his parents were wrong, but because the advice belonged to a different era, an era of lower inflation, simpler financial systems, and fewer options, an era where a savings account actually kept pace with life. That era is gone, and most families have not updated the manual. Let me walk you through the most common pieces of inherited money advice and what the honest truth looks like beside each one. The first belief, a stable job is financial security. For your parents' generation, this was largely true. Jobs were long-term, pensions were real, companies kept employees for decades, loyalty was rewarded with stability. Today, the landscape is completely different. Industries are being disrupted faster than ever. Job security is not something a company gives you. It is something you build through skills, adaptability, and multiple income streams. A single job, no matter how stable it feels today, is a single point of failure in your financial life. This does not mean jobs are bad. It means that treating a job as your only financial strategy, the way the previous generation safely could, is a risk in itself today. The second belief, saving money is enough. This one is perhaps the most dangerous piece of advice still circulating in most families, not because saving is wrong, saving is essential, but saving alone, putting money into a low-interest account and leaving it there, is not a neutral act in today's economy. Inflation means that prices rise every year. If your savings are growing at 3%, but the cost of living is rising at 6 or 7%, you are not standing still. You are moving backwards every year, quietly, without any obvious sign of damage until years later when the gap becomes undeniable. Saving is the foundation, but investing,
Putting money to work in places that grow faster than inflation is what actually builds wealth. This distinction was not as critical for the previous generation. It is absolutely critical for yours. The third belief, debt is always dangerous and must be avoided completely. This belief comes from a completely understandable place. For people who lived through times of genuine financial hardship, debt meant danger. It meant sleepless nights and losing things that mattered. That fear is real, and it comes from real experience. But there's a difference between bad debt and good debt that most family conversations never make. Bad debt is borrowing to buy things that lose value, consumer goods, lifestyle upgrades, things you cannot afford but want now. This debt takes money from your future to pay for your present. It is genuinely dangerous. Good debt is borrowing to acquire something that grows in value or generates income, education that increases your earning capacity, a business that creates cash flow, or, in the right circumstances, property that appreciates. This debt, managed wisely, is how a large portion of the world's wealth has actually been built. Avoiding all debt without understanding this distinction means avoiding one of the most powerful tools available to you. The fear is inherited, but the wisdom needs to be updated. The fourth belief, owning a house is the best investment you will ever make. This one is deeply emotional in most families. A house represents safety, status, roots, achievement, and in many circumstances, property absolutely can be a good investment. But calling it the best investment you will ever make automatically, without examining your specific situation, is where the advice starts to hurt people. A house you live in is not a pure investment. It is a home. It does not generate income. It requires maintenance, taxes, and ongoing costs. The money tied up in a down payment and years of mortgage payments, that same money invested elsewhere during those years might have grown significantly more. This does not mean never buy a house. It means understand what you are actually buying. Make the decision with clear eyes, not inherited assumptions about what the best investment automatically looks like. The fifth belief, money is not something you talk about openly. In many families, discussing money in detail is considered uncomfortable, even shameful. You don't ask what someone earns. You don't discuss investments openly. Money is private, almost secretive. This cultural modesty around money has a quiet but serious consequence. It means most people grow up with almost no financial education from the people closest to them. They inherit beliefs without ever hearing the reasoning behind them. They absorb fears without understanding their origins, and they enter adulthood financially illiterate, not because anyone wanted that for them, but because the silence made it inevitable. Talking about money clearly, honestly, and without shame is one of the most important things a family can do for its next generation. And choosing to break that silence in your own life, to learn, to ask questions, to discuss openly, is not disrespectful to your elders. It's the update they never had access to. Now I want to be very clear about something. This is not about dismissing your parents. It is not about telling you that the people who raised you were foolish or that their experience doesn't matter. Their experience matters enormously. Their sacrifices were real. Their love was genuine. But loving someone and having the right financial map for their world are two completely different things, and the map that helped them navigate their era may lead you in the wrong direction in yours. The most loving thing you can do for yourself and eventually for your own children is to take what was given to you with gratitude, examine it honestly, and update the parts that the world has moved past.
So what does updating actually look like? It starts with awareness, simply becoming conscious of the financial beliefs you carry, not to judge them, but to examine them. Ask yourself honestly, where did I learn this? Was it based on evidence or emotion? Does it still hold true in the world I actually live in today? Then it moves to education, not formal education necessarily, but the consistent, humble practice of learning about money, how it actually works, how it grows, what the real risks are, and what the real opportunities are. The information is more available now than at any point in human history. The barrier is not access, it is the willingness to question what you already believe.
And then it becomes action, small, consistent, informed action, not dramatic overnight changes, but a gradual, steady building of financial habits that match the world you actually live in, not the world your parents navigated. Hamza, by the way, did eventually make the shift. It did not happen overnight. It started with a single honest conversation with a friend who showed him what his savings were actually doing compared to inflation. It led to him reading, learning, asking questions he had never thought to ask before. It led to him making his first small investment, nervous, uncertain, but informed. 3 years later, for the first time in his adult life, his money was growing faster than the world around him was getting more expensive. Not dramatically, not overnight, but genuinely, measurably in the right direction. He told me, "I used to think questioning my parents' advice was disrespectful. Now I think the most respectful thing I could do is take what they gave me and make it better." That is the spirit of this entire conversation. Take what was given to you with love and gratitude. Carry forward everything that still holds true, discipline, patience, the value of honest work, and update, gently but honestly, the parts that the world has moved past. Your parents did the best they could with the map they had. Now it is your turn to draw a better one. If this made you think about the money beliefs you inherited, write in the comments, "I am updating my money map." Like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because next time we go even deeper into the habits and truths that actually build wealth in the world we live in today.